January 27th, 2022. I was not fortunate enough to be born in a Victorian era with a spring in my step. I unfortunately was born North American under a time frame that as of this date has not worked. Well, they've worked, but let's just say there's a lot of unannounced movement, which I had a conversation with Linda this evening. She is totally taken off guard. I don't know why it's off guard, but we are not appalled. I mean, we are unclear as to what has been happening. Some of the American version of NTD, which sometimes claims a different different version of things. This NTD is a new station I have just found, and then I came upon back to back from the NTD, which looks American because it speaks U.S. president. It then goes to UK and something about a prime minister. Now, in the schools that are local in the state of New York, while I was here, they told us we had a U.S. president. There was no mention of any prime minister. Those words were unknown, unannounced. They were not announced when we were smaller, and even in college, they did not speak of such things. I'm watching now. There's a piece on about Scotland and a lot of foreign green lairds. Now, I don't know, is that the fjord for Scotland? They call them lairds. I'm not sure. The linguistical, again, I don't have a family member. I'm sure I have a family member somewhere in the world that has a spring in his step and that has a Victorian Renaissance understanding of feisty and protective of their family members no matter where they are. But I would have no way of knowing for sure. I believe I have one, but I've watched a lot of their kangaroos and their koala bears, and they have a lot of oceanography specials about animals, which I love, and I watched with the children. But news programming as to who's in charge, names, families, there's been no education whatsoever in the state of New York. But this Rewild, they speak of sports and rewilding, which is interesting because in Prime Minister area, it sounds like it is a completely different understanding or overstating than where U.S. President family member is standing. The sports in state of New York is by sports league, but it is not hunting. It is by almost like Roman Colosseum type sports, but not of feeding Christians to lions, not that. It's tossing around utility, like a paraphernalia, like a ball, and then they make these exorbitant salaries and such. But I noticed some of the word layover gets very confusing, and in certain distinct way, you don't want to be misleading. So sports on the Laird looks like rewilding of some estate that the climate change family members are rebuying and rewilding.
They are two of the so-called green-led, climate-focused multimillionaires who
I had never heard of this project before.
and changing the way they are managed. Some of Scotland's traditional lairds are voicing doubt over the rewilding projects. On the edge of the Scottish Highlands lies a 5,500-acre estate called Kildrummy. It was recently bought by American property developers Christopher and Camille Bentley.
Now, those two Americans look more like, they look familial to my North American, my American. What they're portraying as American here is not what U.S. President America, when I walk out on the street, that is not my view or my vantage point when I am looking at the faces in the local village. I'm in what's called a fallout shelter. I have 3 triangles, however they're arranged. And it says fallout shelter on the telephone building. That is all. But this American and my American looks familial. The Americans I see walking on the street, while there are a few in this area, there's been a large, sudden change. And there's also been some slow, steady, growing change that has increased in population density, and it's becoming more dangerous. I do not know where these newcomers are visiting from or relocated from, but it is not making New York safer. It is doing quite the opposite. And in this area, the territory has our family lineage on paper, but also, and in history books, but also on set in stone. Let's put it that way.
Bentleys joined the growing ranks of so-called green lairds, climate-savvy millionaires who are buying up Scottish land and transforming the way it's managed.
Kildrummy was operated as a shooting estate, and so
I met a
really
Bentley. I went to elementary
managed
school with a
for that
Bentley
purpose.
once. Her name was Heather. This is not
Bentleys
the
bought
Bentley
Kildrummy
that I
estate
went
for
to
about
school
$15
with.
million.
And
Its
I have no
manor house was
contact
built
to
on
her
Hansel
anymore. I don't know what
Ranch
happened to her in
grouse
life.
shooting parties, and its land was intensely managed. Heather-clad moors were burned to improve breeding conditions for the grouse, and their predators, such as foxes, were hunted and trapped. The Bentleys have banned trapping and shooting at Kildrummy. They plan to turn the estate into a semi-wilderness, where dwindling species are revived and protected.
Across the way, we're looking at the Glenkindie estate, our neighbor. They're a hunting estate, and they, though, have managed their land very sympathetically with the environment. We're looking to piggyback off of that and replicate that here, where you see a heavily burned, heavily managed moorland that was kept this way for far too long.
Not far away lies a former shooting estate named Bunloyd. It belongs to another green laird, Jeremy Leggett.
I feel
Leggett is a long-time climate campaigner.
I love this color combo in the kitchen. I think it's absolutely beautiful. But it feels like some of the humans repurpose and then reuse some language for whatever family reason. The clansmen need to whatever, in family heirloom and being HEIRLOOM. But I'm finding that in this day and age where I am, the language and the ability to tell one really frightening life frame and some discovery may upset the wrong strategy, whatever, in my attempt to protect myself and the children that I, whatever here. There are 4 carbon copies, or actually there are 4 exact replicas or part of my whatever in motherhood. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. But some of these repurposed words, when going to president system and prime minister, and then I heard there's a premier. I don't know where they have those in family members. But sometimes the English or what I'm speaking gets repurposed for a different association, and then it makes it difficult to defend one's own reputation and one's own honor and do the reputable thing for other ancients and ancestors and heraldry. In New York, there's no storefront or there's no like way to find out one's own. I mean, you send away a test and then you get the results, but it just has a geography map location. It doesn't have who you belong to in extended family or in forever family. And forever family member is what I've been withheld from in purpose. I don't know why. It's January 27th, 2022.